Hello. Hello, my name is Cecilia Pena, and I'm going to present to you my mentor text presentation. As you can see, I chose Social Studies 4th grade, and this is the book that I chose. I received it from the Charlton Library as an interlibrary loan request. And as you can see, this is a table of contents. It has chapters 1 through 11. It has a atlas, a glossary, index, and some credits to it. Chapter 2, Regions of Texas. The topics are, of course, the geographic regions of Texas and what makes them unique, the differences of towns and cities in Texas, the first Texans and how they adapted to Texas. The first book I chose was All Around Texas, Regions and Resources. This book introduces the reader to the regions of Texas, gives you really vibrant photographs. The TEKS I focused on here was Social Studies 7.B. And that was to identify, locate, and compare the geographic regions of Texas, mountains, basins, Great Plains, North Central Plains, coastal plains, including their landforms, climate, and vegetation. So what we would have there is a mix and match. I really did like this strategy because it also has pictures of a map and the areas colored in, so that way the student learns not only the facts and characteristics of these regions, but also of where they're located on a map. So we could really make this into a fun and activity. You can make it as competitive as you'd like to, or you could use it as a just a learning or a study strategy. The next book I chose is Welcome to the U.S., Texas. This book takes you through cities in Texas and some of its famous features. The text I chose here was Social Studies 8.B. Excuse me. And it describes and explains the location and distribution of various towns in Texas, past and present. I chose the strategy Where Am I for this mentor text. I really do like this book because it does give clues of different areas and famous aspects like the Houston Space Museum, the Alamo, and so forth. So what students would do is they would assign each other to get at least 2 to 3 different facts of each city in Texas, and then the rest of the class would have to guess where they are after reading this book. So this could be really fun and an interactive game to get the students up and going, get their heart racing, and just make this a really fun learning strategy for your classroom. The next book I chose was Seeds of a Nation, Texas. This book gives the reader information about the first Texans and tells you how Texas became a state. The text I focused on here was Social Studies 9.A. It describes ways people have adapted to and modified their environment in Texas, past and present. And so I chose angle summaries here. I thought we could use this as a way for students to get really creative with their writing here. They could summarize what they've learned and also put it into perspective of a student, someone their age that may have came to Texas this time. They could do a diary, a journal entry. They can draw pictures. They can make it into a picture book. They can actually put words in there. You could really adjust this angled summaries strategy into any way that you would like to, but then also get what the student really comprehended from reading this book. Chapter 3, Early History of Texas. The topics are how Indians influenced culture in Texas today, and the student will learn that American Indians were here before the Europeans, and they'll also learn about various tribes that settled in Texas. I chose the Caddo Americans for this mentor text, and it tells you basically about the Caddos in Texas and gives you illustrations and what life might have been like for the Caddos here in Texas. I chose to concentrate on TEKS 14.A for this book, and it basically is to compare how various American Indian groups such as the Caddo and the Comanches governed themselves. So I chose a Venn diagram. I think this Venn diagram would have to be done as a class for better understanding. I don't think 4th graders will be able to do this on their own unless they are maybe GT. This is something that you would have to guide the students through. As you're reading the book, you can put these on the board and they just kind of compare and contrast together and really embrace critical thinking skills here for this project. The next book I chose was Indians Who Lived in Texas, and this is a really good summary of various tribes here in Texas. It gives great illustrations and details of how they might have lived here. I chose to focus on Social Studies TEKS 1.B for this one, and is to identify American Indian groups in Texas and North America before European exploration, such as the Lipan, Apache, Caddo, and Humano. So I chose to go ahead and for the strategy is a diorama. So who does not like to put together a diorama? I think I had as much fun as my son did when we were doing this in school together. So the students could pick any tribe that they would like to make a diorama off. They would have to represent the correct shelter that they have, if they had a garden like you can see here, how they survived, how they got food, what tools they used. All that would have to be represented in the diorama for them to represent that tribe in front of the classroom and tell them why they put certain objects in their diorama. So this is a great comprehension skill to have to use in the classroom. The next book I chose was Native Americans in Texas. This book gives you a timeline of how the Indians came to Texas and how they interacted with explorers. The Social Studies TEKS I chose was Social Studies 22.C, and that's how to express ideas orally based on the research and experiences. So with this timeline, I think students could use a strategy plotting flashback on a timeline. So the students will create this timeline. They can put it on anything as big as a poster board, on a piece of paper. They can be as creative as they want to. They can add photos, they can add pictures, they could draw, but they would have to present them together in front of the class orally to show what they have comprehended for this text. Chapter 8, A Growing State. The topics are how cattle and oil have influenced the growth and development of Texas, famous Texans, and immigration influence. I chose People of Texas, Mentor Text. This book gives you a good look at how people influence Texas past and present. I chose to focus on Social Studies TEKS 18.B, and that's to identify leadership qualities of state and local leaders past and present. I chose this strategy complex character. I like this because it's usually used for reading to get the character traits of a character. However, since we are in social studies, and this book does give biographies of famous people in Texas, I thought they could really read into the biography and look at what makes a great leader. What characteristics must, this person has had to become, what he was and how he shaped Texas. He or she shaped Texas. So this does give the students some eye-opening characteristics that they may see in themselves or in others. The next text I show is It's My State, Texas. This book gives you a clear picture of various people that influence Texas and its culture. It has really nice photos and large print. I chose to focus on Social Studies TEKS 12.C. Analyze the effects of exploration, immigration, migration, and limited resources on the economic development and growth of Texas. So I chose to do the strategy influence of a character. Again, this is usually done of a character in a book, but instead of the character, you would write immigrants or explorers, and right there in the middle where it says Rich or Gabriel, you would put that in there. And then kind of as you're reading the book, what influences did they have on us today? There's some similarities between them and something that is going on today. Those would be things that you would list here. And then you could also have them draw a picture or tell us a little bit about an famous explorer or an immigrant here. So this strategy you can really expand on, or you can limit it to just what influences the characters here, or the immigrants or the explorers. Last but not least, I chose Cattle and Oil, The Growth of Texas Industries. This book gives you an idea of how cattle and oil influence Texas, economic growth, culture, and present-day Texas. I chose to focus on TEKS Social Studies 4.B here, and that is to explain the growth, development, and impact of the cattle industry. including contributions made by Charles Goodnight, Richard King, and Lacy Johnson. This book does not talk about those particular people, Charles Goodnight, Richard King, and Lacy Johnson, but the textbook does. So this is a good supportive book to expand a little bit on what the book said, but also gives you new facts. So I chose Write, Talk, and Text Strategy, and I really did like this because as Texans, we think we know everything about Texas. And I would have the students put on a sticky note what they originally thought about how cattle influenced Texas. Then, as you are reading the book, the teacher can write points and facts on the board of important aspects of what the book said about how cattle influenced Texas. And at the end, the students could write an essay on what they thought the impact of growth and development of the cattle industry in Texas, and then write about the facts that they read in the book. So they can compare and contrast here. They could write as little as just bullet points, or they can actually write an essay. It's kind of up to you as a teacher on which strategy and how much you want to expand on this strategy. So thank you. I hope you enjoyed my mentor text and the strategies that I used. I look forward to looking at you all to learn from you also on some strategies and how you use them on your subject. Again, thank you for watching.